You're listening to the Health and Happiness Podcast with Travis Kemper and
Lauren Maxwell. Each episode, we share easy-to-implement strategies to improve your health, happiness, and overall quality of life.
Sports are such a great teacher. I think of everything they've taught me: camaraderie, humility, and how to resolve differences. Kobe Bryant. How's it going, Travis?
Good. Yesterday, we may have prevented a forest fire from breaking out.
You're a hero.
At a party campsite we drove by. Luckily, some other people came by, and one guy had a chainsaw. And chainsaw is really, really helpful when there's literally a fire burning inside of a log. So
wow.
Yeah, so we got it out. One of the guys had some dirt in the back of his truck, so we were able to smother it pretty good. And then we got down the road when we were pretty confident it was safe and called it in. And they were supposed to be going out to, make sure it's safe.
Wow. Well, thank goodness you were there.
Yeah. Well, it was weird because we drove past the campsite and we saw just trash and it was a party site. They even bagged up the trash, which I didn't understand, but didn't take it. And then we were coming back out maybe 30 minutes later because there was nowhere to hike down there, which is what we were looking for.
Yeah.
So we're coming back out the same road and we look to the side and we see this area smoking just a little bit. And then we get down there and there's flames coming out. So we drive down to the creek and we get some water, and then we meet this other guy and this other couple, and they came up to help us out. And then another guy was driving down and he had the chainsaw, and that was the chainsaw was the kicker. That was the big thing that we really needed because we had nothing. We had I picked up a vodka bottle that was at the campsite and we filled that up in the creek to try and get some water because we were like, what do we do? We didn't have a shovel or anything.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So today then I spent the day, I took out my toilet and then I was tearing out the tile in my master bathroom. So home improvement.
Yeah.
How's it going, Lauren?
It's going good. This is the first weekend in a while I feel like I've just been able to hang out in Flagstaff. I've been to Phoenix and back the last couple weekends, so it's been really nice to just be home and enjoying the place that I love. We got some patio furniture this weekend, so we've been hanging out outside even more, and it's really nice now that we have somewhere to sit.
We got patio furniture this week too.
Oh wow.
That's what I'm doing after this call.
Twinsies.
Yeah.
We're also dog sitting again. We have Keely's bestie Paisley over with us for a little over a week, and she has been loving the constant playmate. She's been also super tired, which has been awesome for us.
Nice. I forgot. We went on a hike. I got off early one day.
Oh.
And we went on a hike up in the mountains with Duke off the leash where, nobody else goes.
Fun.
And we're almost back. And I'm on a flat spot and it dips a little bit on the trail. And I see a big black blob. And Duke is only about 20 yards from the big black blob.
Oh, no.
And I was 100 yards from Duke. So I called Duke, and I learned from my training, you don't run towards the dog because it makes him run away.
Oh, my gosh.
So our trainer taught me to turn around and go the other way. So I turned around and sprinted backwards. And he came right up to me. I leashed him up. I pulled out my bear spray. I uncapped it because at this point, I can see the bear staring at me.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, this is my third worst fear in the woods with Duke. Without Duke, I have zero fear of bears. I've seen them a million times. But with Duke, I have a big fear.
Oh, my
gosh. He came back. I leashed him up, got the bear spray out. I literally uncapped my bear spray for the first time in my life.
Wow.
Yep.
Amazing.
And he was a pretty big bear. I would guess well over 200 pounds, which is big in the spring.
That's scary.
Yeah,
I would have been so scared to not, I know that's not what you're supposed to do, but to not run towards Keely would be my gut instinct. So to run away from her would be so scary, even though that's what you're supposed to do, and it works.
Well, here's the thing. There's mixed things going on there. You're supposed to run away from the dog to get him to chase you, to follow you. You aren't supposed to run away from a bear.
Right.
So it was like, well, I know that I got to get the dog back.
Scary,
That's
scary.
what I went for. Yeah. Anyway.
Jeez. Wow. I'm surprised you didn't lead with that.
Yeah, well, I forgot about it until after I was done talking and you were talking about your dog. And I was like, oh, I had a good dog story.
Yeah, you sure did. I'm glad Duke's okay.
Duke's great. He had a blast. He didn't even know the bear was a bear until we walked past where the bear was.
Oh
and he was sniffing and pulling.
And he was like,
yeah.
Oh.
And then the bear really ran away. I heard him crashing through the woods.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nuts. That's nuts. Well, anyway, so what are we going to talk about today?
Sports, specifically sports for kids, nice. Benefits and risks.
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll start with, the bad news first, the risks.
You always start with the bad news first.
Always start with the bad news first. So one of the things I have talked a lot about in my field of physical therapy is risks of sports related to specialization. So some degree of sports specialization is necessary to develop elite level skill development. However, for most sports, such intense training in a single sport to the exclusion of others should be delayed until adolescence, at least to optimize success while minimizing injury, psychological stress, and burnout. Over time, young athletes, and in particular young female athletes, are more likely to be injured and sustain an overuse injury if they had a higher degree of sports specialization. Studies show that athletes whose training hours exceed their age or whose sports hours exceed their free play by a factor of greater than 2 are also more likely to develop injuries and overuse injuries.
So there are some psychological risks. Self-esteem can be tied to sports performance. There are some poo-poo head coaches who can demoralize and bully. Some kids can be delusional about the opportunity for college scholarships. There can be strained relationships with over-invested parents. I have definitely seen that. And I think anybody that has been to a kindergarten baseball game or t-ball game has seen how bad parents can be. Actually, speaking of which, because I was coaching the last couple of years, I get emails from the Coaches Association. They're trying to find referees. And one of the things they said, the biggest complaint of referees is parents. And it's the biggest reason why referees are leaving. And we don't have enough referees right now. Yeah. So one game last year for a high school football game, we had to wait an hour and a half for another game to finish up so that we could have our football game.
Oh my gosh.
Because we didn't have enough refs. Nobody wants to do the job.
Oh my gosh.
If you are interested in it, it actually pays pretty well. It's like $100 per game. So you go and hang out with a bunch of high school kids. I mean, obviously you have a job to do, but it's something like $100 per game. So anyway, side note. Yeah, there can also be unhealthy performance pressure on kids and inappropriate feelings of superiority. Lauren, I know that you had these.
Superiority complex, totally.
Yeah, that's totally up your alley.
Totally, yeah. I'm way overconfident. That's my problem.
For sure.
There's also something to be said about weight-sensitive sports and the risks those pose. So there's no accepted optimum values for body weight or body fat percentage currently for athletes. There's 3 classifications of weight-sensitive sports, one being gravitational sports, where body weight restricts performance due to moving against gravity. So this is things like long-distance running, cross-country skiing, biking, skiing. There's weight class sports, which is like combat sports like wrestling, judo, boxing, taekwondo, and also weightlifting sports that are broken into weight classes. And then third, there are aesthetically judged sports, such as gymnastics, diving, cheerleading, figure skating, synchronized swimming, and also dancing. These are ones that I participated in a lot as a child.
I was a synchronized swimmer.
Yeah, totally.
I was not a
I
synchronized
could
swimmer.
totally see you be a synchronized swimmer.
I
Man,
can barely swim.
I really, no one either, which is funny.
My
'Cause,
legs are too dense.
oh,
I
yeah,
can't get them out of the water.
yeah, I don't have that problem. Yeah, I could, you guys are a lot more muscly and like less body percent fat than me, for sure. Makes it harder. Health risks for these weight sensitive sports. There's extreme energy usage for the sport combined with short term restrictive diets before competition. These behaviors may progress to chronic dieting, frequent weight fluctuations, fasting, passive or active dehydration, or purging, such as with laxatives, diuretics, vomiting, diet pills, or without excessive training. These can become chronic eating disorders where athletes struggle with distorted body image, abnormal eating, weight fluctuations, and variable athletic performance. Athletes can be under, over, or normal weight and experience eating disorders. Most frequent diagnosis is not bulimia or anorexia in athletes, but an eating disorder that is not specified.
So, something that is fascinating to me, and that's always kind of fascinated me, is the female athlete triad. And what the female athlete triad is it refers to the interrelationship among energy availability, menstrual function, and bone mineral density. So, female athletes can experience, if they deplete their body of the energy that it needs for long enough, they will not have a period, something called amenorrhea. They can have osteoporosis. And again, these would be and they're also going to be tired and fatigued, but these would be in those sports that do commonly have these eating disorders, or more commonly. What I did learn today, Lauren, is that a male athlete triad is also a thing, but there's little to no attention to it because you can't see it.
Yeah, I had no idea that that was a thing either, but I learned something new today.
So you have the exact same effects, like your instead of your menstrual period not being there, you can't reproduce. So you have the same thing. It's invisible for a male versus a female. Yeah, crazy. So men can also, or boys can also have osteoporosis, and of course the fatigue. Reasons athletes would put themselves in these positions: pressure from peers, pressure from parents, pressure from coaches, a desire to be lean, so aesthetically pleasing body, desire to improve performance. In aesthetic sports, comments by coaches on athletes' body composition put psychological pressure on the athletes. In sports and with weight categories such as weightlifting and combat sports, there can be a competitive advantage with cutting weight.
Yeah, and I mean, I was a child gymnast and child dancer a long time ago. But one of the things I also noticed is like coaches really had no education on nutrition. So while they were like making these comments, they couldn't offer you ways to like lose weight in a healthy way. So a lot of times in a young mind that turns into really scary things quickly.
They also couldn't offer ways to gain weight in a healthy way, just in case anybody's wondering, because that was my problem.
Yeah.
I saw the wrestlers because I was friends with most of them, but I hated wrestling. So I just wanted to get bigger and more muscular, and it never worked because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. And I also had no idea what I was doing in the opposite direction. So the prevalence for this, numbers are really all over the place, and we need more studies. In weight categorized sports, up to 94% of athletes report dieting and extreme weight control measures prior to competition. 94%.
I mean, the entire wrestling team, minus the heavyweights, generally, because they would easily be able to make it.
Yeah. In aesthetic sports, the prevalence is estimated to be about 30 to 40%. I almost feel like that's too low, but whatever. Team sports, about 5 to 15%. Prevalence of menstrual irregularity has been found to be as high as 69% in weight-sensitive sports.
That's wildly disturbing.
That's high, yeah. Long-term data is lacking, but some studies suggest up to 72% of former elite athletes that suffer from eating disorders recover. So that's good.
Yeah, and that's not, well, it's kind of good. That means 28%,
I mean,
almost a third, are still suffering.
Eating disorders are so tough.
Yeah, and that was, there was a 15 to 20 year follow-up. So 28% were still suffering from an eating disorder 15 to 20 years after they stopped being an elite athlete.
That's so tough.
It's not good.
Not good. Sports regulatory agencies are trying to address these problems with policies and procedures in sports that have higher prevalences of harmful weight loss practices. The authors of the study that we read suggest taking athletes that want to lose weight seriously. They don't really elaborate here, but we're assuming that they want coaches and parents to speak with their athletes and come up with a feasible plan while educating the athlete as well as monitoring the weight loss and performance. This is definitely not something that happened when I was a kid. So this would be a great thing to start doing. They do recommend later in the study that blood and urinary tests should be utilized to assess specific micronutrients such as iron, B12, and vitamin D. They recommend that men should not be below 5% body fat and women not below 12%.
All right, well, the bad stuff is over.
Phew.
Let's go to the benefits. So for physical health, there's obviously going to be a lot of benefits. Recreational sport provides a fun, engaging, and multifaceted form of exercise to help reduce both primary and secondary cardiovascular disease risk, as they reduce factors like blood pressure, cardiorespiratory fitness is increased, and body composition. They reduce risk factors for several major diseases like heart attack, 13 types of cancer, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Honestly, this list is not even close to exhaustive. It's so much longer than this. Outdoor sports are associated with a better subjective overall health perception and a better physical quality of life. Lauren, we talk about getting outside all the time. There's reasons for it.
Yeah. Lots of them.
Remember, if a tree outside your hospital window can help you heal faster than somebody that doesn't have a tree outside the window, just imagine what the benefits of getting outside and
sitting
seeing
next
a
to
tree.
the tree, standing next to the tree, doing jumping jacks next to the tree,
or calling your dog back from the bear while you're in between a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
Participating in physical activity is associated with improved bone health and improved bone mineral density, improved weight status, improved cardiorespiratory and muscular fitness, reduced risk of cancer and diabetes. Participating in sports is associated with increased physical activity levels, improved cardiovascular fitness, decreased body fat percentage for girls, and increased overall quality of life. I don't know why they only specified girls, because I'm pretty sure the fat percentage is going to go down for boys as they get more muscular.
For anybody, yeah.
Yeah. Recreational soccer and other ball games can also play a significant role against childhood obesity. No surprise there. And if you've looked at the latest childhood obesity stats, they're disgusting. It got so bad in 2020 and 2021. And it was already bad.
Mm-hmm. There are also lots of benefits for mental health and well-being. So sports impacts on overall well-being, quality of life, happiness, and life satisfaction. Reported effects of exercising in natural environments were that participants had greater feelings of revitalization and positive engagement, decreases in tension, confusion, anger, and depression. They also showed positive effects for mood, resilience, and positive engagement, as well as restoration for people living in cities. So again, getting outdoors and participating in nature is a really good thing for everybody. Negative affective states like stress, depression, anxiety, tension, confusion, anger, rumination, loneliness, and neuroticism could be reduced by participation in outdoor sports. Those who participate in outdoor sports often list lots and lots and lots and lots of positive experience, such as pleasure and enjoyment, meditation, independence, basic psychological needs of autonomy, competence and relatedness, experiences of flow, comfort and intense emotions, enhanced feeling of body, discovering the pleasure of achievement, vital strength, and a higher will to live in drug addicts, and of course, an intense nature experience. So sports can provide a community of support. So properly structured programs can provide a safe, wholesome, and nurturing environment for children and teens and instill a sense of community where they feel supported by their peers and adults. It also provides socialization and confidence and improved body image. So even though there are the aforementioned body image and eating disorder risks, in general, sports can make a young athlete feel proud of their body and what it can do. Female athletes in particular have been shown to benefit from positive feelings about their body, regardless of whether they conform to society's standards of female beauty. Participating in sports is also associated with lower rates of anxiety and depression, lower amounts of stress, higher self-esteem, reduced risk of suicide, less substance abuse and fewer risky behaviors, increased cognitive performance, increased creativity, greater enjoyment of all forms of physical activity, improved psychological and emotional well-being for individuals with disabilities, increased life satisfaction, and spirituality. Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Education and lifelong learning. Outdoor sports provide an environment that leads to an intense contact with oneself, others, and nature, and therefore are discussed for having impacts on interpersonal and intrapersonal development, as well as influencing the relation of humans with nature. Outdoor sports are associated with increased self-motivation and show positive effects on volitional qualities, assertion and inner strength, and readiness to face challenges. 6 studies showed an association between outdoor sport programs and educational performance and motivation, including an increase in sense of purpose for learning and motivation to study, a higher engagement within lessons, better academic learning, efficacy, and better achievements. Being active in the natural environment not only influences the attitude towards learning, it also has effects on cognitive aspects such as attention and memory span, brain structure, function and connectivity, as well as intellectual flexibility and problem-solving skills. A 2020 study explored connections between participation in structured, open-skilled, and closed-skilled sports. Open-skilled sports are like soccer and basketball. Closed-skilled sports are swimming. And executive function among preschool-age children. Parents reported on sport participation, and children were directly assessed on 3 executive functioning skills: inhibitory control, working memory, and cognitive flexibility. Results showed that participation in open-skilled sports was associated with cognitive flexibility, and participation in mixed-skilled, which is both open and closed-skilled sports, was associated with working memory. Participation in sports has also been shown to improve the ability to take criticism and work collaboratively, acquisition of work ethic, and self-regulation, organization, and time management. It just keeps going, Lauren.
It just keeps going. And I don't know, maybe I'm beating a dead horse here, but this is why it's so important to have things like recess and PE in school. I know we've talked about it before, but like the argument is, we've talked about it before, but the argument is always that we're trying to focus on learning, and so we spend more time in class. But like, look at all these cognitive and learning benefits that you're getting from.
And it's not only that, they've studied this. Like they've studied, can you put gym class in front of the hardest class, and will people do better? And the answer is yes, 100%. They did it a bunch with thousands and thousands of kids, and the answer was always yes. If you increase cardio activity before you take a test, you will improve your test score.
It just, like, there's so much evidence out there. I just don't understand why this is not.
I understand. It's 2 words: the government.
It's just so frustrating.
It's mind-boggling. Is what it really is. Anyway,
moving on. I'll get off my soapbox. Active citizenship. So as outdoor sports provide opportunities and places for social interaction, contacts, and relations, they can lead to increased social connectedness and are therefore associated with various benefits of active citizenship, including things like volunteering and community benefits such as the construction and maintenance of local community life, identity, and pride. So participating in community sports improves your participation in the community. Makes sense. Outdoor sports programs also showed positive effects in the inclusion or integration of special groups, including individuals with physical and or mental disabilities, young people with autism, disengaged youth, and for the reintegration of youth at risk.
So there might be some budding evidence, if you will, on crime reduction and antisocial behavior. There have been admittedly few studies at this point that have focused on the benefits for crime reduction and pro-social behavior, and the evidence base is primarily qualitative and anecdotal reports from the field. However, there seem to be valuable insights as to how outdoor sports can be used to increase pro-social behavior, reduce smoking, reduce alcohol and substance misuse, and prevent youth delinquency. This makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
give kids something positive to do, and it keeps them away from doing.
Yeah, this is no surprise. And
no, not at all. I mean,
leap of logic here. It's you give them, well, one, you give them something to do. Idle hands are the devil's playground. There's that old saying. So you give kids something to do and they don't start smoking. Right. You give them something to do that smoking is going to be negatively affecting that they care about, like football or basketball, they're probably going to smoke less. Right. One study in particular implemented outdoor sport programs for children and young people in foster care institutions, as well as for disaffected youths and students who demonstrated antisocial behavioral traits, and found that participation in these programs decreased the number of behavioral referrals. So more research needed, but a cool area of study, and it just totally makes sense with the stuff that we already know. Yeah,
I mean, I participated in band, and I consider that a sport because I was lifting a 50-pound drum. You can come at me if you want, but like if I carried a 50-pound drum for hours at a time after school, as a sport, as weightlifting, whatever. But I was so busy with band all the time. I mean, I'm really not, I guess, the type of person who you would expect to like have some kind of delinquent behavior, but I really didn't have the time to do it if I wanted to. So I could vouch for that. Some additional benefits, and these make sense as well. Outdoor sports were shown to be used as a tool to successfully activate sedentary, non-active people, promote active and healthy lifestyles, and are able to influence positive attitudes towards physical activity. Since outdoor sports have connections to lifetime activity habits, they can foster sport adherence over the life course and help people find and maintain an active way of life. Makes sense.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's
Things
fun.
That are
it's
fun
a fun way to be active.
Yeah. So challenge this week. While we discuss mostly the benefits of sports for kids, they're equally beneficial for your mental and physical health as an adult. So think of a sport or activity that you can do with others that you have not done in a while, and make an effort to get active in it this week.
That's a good challenge, Travis.
This was fun. Thanks, everyone.
This was fun. You did awesome today.
You did great today, Lauren. And for everybody else, we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and are getting benefits from our content.
If your life is improving in part due to the information in this podcast, we would greatly appreciate you sharing the episode with your family and friends on social media and leaving us a review so we can continue to reach more people and improve the health and happiness of the community at large.
Thanks again, and we will see you next week for another episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast.